It's been a tough season for the Miami Heat, to say the least. When you look at the Miami Heat right now, they're not in a good situation. They're on a terrible losing streak. They're on an 8-game losing streak. This is the longest it has been underneath Coach Eric Spoelstra. Not only just that, you are 1-9 in your last 10 games since March. When you look at their record since Jimmy Butler, they're 4-12. Now, I'm not going to come on here and act like the Miami Heat were a championship contender at the beginning portion of this season when they had Jimmy Butler. Something was off with Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley. And they basically phased out Jimmy Butler out the offense. When you look at the Miami Heat, when they had Jimmy Butler before they traded him to the Golden State Warriors, Tyler Herro was leading the team in terms of scoring. He was leading the team in towards of getting the shots up also. They ran this offense around Tyler Herro. And Jimmy Butler came out and he said that he was frustrated by this. But it goes back to the offseason where Pat Riley came out and he was basically throwing shade at Jimmy Butler and Tyler Herro. He called Tyler Herro soft and said that he needed to be healthier, which is crazy to say to superstars in today's game. When you look at players in today's NBA, the NFL, and also in baseball, certain things that you said in the 80s and the 90s, you can't say to players in today's game. They may take things a little more personally than they did many decades ago. But he came out and he said that about Tyler Herro. Tyler Herro is having the best season of his career, hands down. Jimmy Butler, on the other hand, did miss time in the playoffs last year, hurt his ankle, and he was not able to play against the Boston Celtics in that series. You have Pat Riley come out and he basically says if Jimmy Butler's not on the court, he should shut up. Let the players on the court do the talking. This all stems from when Jimmy Butler came out and he told a fan, in the Eastern Conference, if I was healthy, every single team's in trouble. And you know that. That's what he told the fan in a joking way. Jimmy Butler has been the best player with the Miami Heat since they got him in free agency. When I look at the Miami Heat right now, they're not even a shell of themselves. This is a team that I don't even recognize. And I'm a big Miami Heat fan. I've been a fan of the Miami Heat my entire life. I've never seen them be this bad underneath Coach Eric Spoelstra, especially in the fourth quarter. They can't finish out games. They don't have any heart, and their defenses went to the wayside, which is crazy because you have Bam Adebayo and you have Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell is not a top scoring point guard, but you brought him over because he's a very good defensive point guard, and he can hit a 3 or 2 a game. That's it. You're not expecting for him to go out there and score over 10 points or anything, but you have Bam Adebayo. But when I look at Pat Riley, he has failed the Miami Heat over the last few years, really since LeBron James departed and he went back to Cleveland. They have not been able to hit on those free agents. And not only just that, he has ran superstars out of Miami, starting with LeBron James, starting with Dwayne Wade. Many people, including myself, thought that Dwayne Wade was going to be a lifer for the Miami Heat. And as a Heat fan, we don't discuss the fact that he went to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We don't talk about the fact that he went to the Chicago Bulls. He's one of the best Miami Heat players of all time. In my opinion, he's the best Heat player of all time. But even you rubbed him the wrong way. That man took so many pay cuts for the Miami Heat. And when it was time to pay up, you didn't want to pay up. So he goes off to the Chicago Bulls. Then you bring over Jimmy Butler after this franchise has struggled immensely in free agency year in and year out. You bring in a star in Jimmy Butler. You knew that he could be a diva at times. We saw this with Chicago Bulls, and I don't blame him because you had an executive come out and say, well, if you can control Jimmy Butler, that rubbed Jimmy Butler the wrong way. Jimmy Butler left the Chicago Bulls. We saw Jimmy Butler with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He bullied Karl Anthony Towns. They moved off of Jimmy Butler. He goes to the Philadelphia 76ers, get the 76ers into a good spot. They chose Tobias Harris over him. He comes over to the Miami Heat, and he set the Heat culture. They don't have that grit anymore. They don't have that determination anymore on the court. You had that year in and year out with Jimmy Butler. And you may think that I would take Pat Riley's side because when you look at Pat Riley, he's done so many great things for the Lakers all the way in the past. He's done so many great things for the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler got the Miami Heat to the finals, not once, but twice in the last 5 years. One time against the Los Angeles Lakers in the bubble. No one saw the Miami Heat going that far. They were the clear underdog. And they still won games against the Los Angeles Lakers in the bubble. Bam Adebayo went down with a neck injury. Goran Dragic is out with a foot injury. Jimmy Butler's your number one option. And you still find ways to go out there and win those basketball games because Coach Eric Spoelstra is so great and Jimmy Butler was so amazing. Let's not act like Jimmy Butler had a Kevin Durant alongside him or Stephen Curry. This man had Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, undrafted talent, and he's taking them to the NBA Finals. Give credit to Bam Adebayo, give credit to Tyler Herro, and to Duncan Robinson. But Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo were the only players that were drafted at that time by the Miami Heat. And the biggest move that you can do in free agency when you had Jimmy Butler was bring in Kyle Lowry, who was way behind the prime of his career. He was terrible with the Miami Heat. He dealt with injuries. He was too slow on the offensive end and on defense. He had a couple of good games, but that was it. And you gave him a huge contract. You were desperate for that point guard, and he was terrible. Now, Kyle Lowry's no longer here. I'm happy about that. He's now with the Philadelphia 76ers, but you wasted money and you wasted time bringing him in. You could have brought in another superstar. We just saw Damian Lillard a few years ago get traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. Where did he want to go? To the Miami Heat. Him and Jimmy Butler? They could have won a championship, in my opinion. Especially if you would have kept Bam Adebayo. You could have moved off Tyler Herro. There you go. But you didn't make that move. Many years before that, it was discussions about the Houston Rockets. They want to move off of James Harden. You could bring him in. You could get away from Tyler Herro. I did not agree with that move, so I'll give Pat Riley a thumbs up. Because Tyler Herro in the next few years is going to be a better player than James Harden. But you did not bring in the right talent around Jimmy Butler. You went cheap year in and year out. And when it's time for Jimmy Butler to get paid his money, and I know that he will be in his late 30s when he gets that contract extension because he's going to be in his late 30s with the Golden State Warriors. But look at everything that he has done for the Miami Heat. And look at how you treated that man on his way out. Jimmy Butler could have handled it better, yes. But to see what he did in the last 5 years, you easily pay him because he's been your best player on your team and most definitely your best offensive player. When you look at the Heat and their seedings over the last few years, 2020, 5th seed, 2021, the 6th seed, 2022, the 1st seed, which was a great year for the Miami Heat. 2023 and 2024, you end up in the 8th seed, play-in team, but you make the playoffs. When they traded Jimmy Butler away, I knew that the season was over with, and I said that at the time. I like Andrew Wiggins, but Andrew Wiggins, let's be real, he is not a true superstar in the NBA, and he never will be. We saw this with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He will never be a true number one option. He had a good stint with the Golden State Warriors, and it's not like I hate Andrew Wiggins. I think he's a solid two-way player. He'll be a good number 3 or good number 4 option on the championship team. But in terms of being the number 1 option, that's not going to happen. So you trade away Jimmy Butler and you're hoping that Andrew Wiggins can be your next Jimmy Butler. That's not going to happen. He's not a better player than Jimmy Butler. Maybe in the next few years he will be, but I doubt it because you put Jimmy Butler in the right situation with the Golden State Warriors, with Draymond Green, with Stephen Curry, with Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. You look at the Golden State Warriors, they're in the bottom of the Western Conference. Now they may be a guaranteed playoff team in the Western Conference, and that's a tough conference to be in. I know they just suffered a tough loss last night against the Denver Nuggets without Jokic, without Jamal Murray, but it's a Jimmy Butler effect. They've only lost 2 games with him starting. And that's a questionable game they lost against the Dallas Mavericks. Jimmy Butler is a baller. And right now, the Heat, they don't have enough talent. Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. Don't get me wrong. You say he's having a down year this year. But in the last 5 to 10 years of his career, he has been great. This is just a bad season. Even when they had Dion Waiters, Justice Winslow, Hassan Whiteside, I remember that team. Eric Spoelstra still got the best out of that roster. It's only so much that he can do with this roster right now with Tyler Herro being your number 1 option. And I want to give him his flowers. Tyler Herro went from just averaging 20 points a game, now averaging 24 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. He's basically your number 1 point guard. And that's not his true position. He's a very good shooting guard. The 3-point shot is still there, but in the last 10 games, it has disappeared. And I'm not talking about him shooting terribly from the 3. He's trying to go into the lane. He's trying to create for everyone else. So the best thing that he was great at, the thing that he is known for, shooting that 3 ball, he's getting away from that now because he's trying to get everyone else involved as a point guard. That's not his game. And defenses will always win because of Miami Heat, their 3-point shot in the last 2 months has been completely terrible outside of Duncan Robinson and Tyler Herro. No one can make a 3-point shot, including Terry Rozier, who has not been a good basketball player for the Miami Heat. They made a trade to bring him in last season like that was going to make a huge difference, which it didn't. Terry Rozier comes from the Charlotte Hornets, which is an entire video by itself. When you go to the Hornets, that's a terrible culture. That's why LaMelo Ball may be on the trade block. They don't have structure there. So when you bring over a player from a bad team like that, they chuck up a bunch of bad shots, they turn the ball over. You don't come from a winning franchise. You bring that over to a team that's trying to win year in and year out. You're mashing with the head coach at that point. You're headbutting the head coach a lot. Terry Rozier is damn near unplayable because he's inefficient and he's a selfish player with the way that he plays basketball. He doesn't try to get others involved. This is the worst season of his career since he was with the Boston Celtics in 2017 and 2018. Points wise and turn the ball over wise and assist wise. So you have him on the bench and you traded to bring him in. But Tyler Herro, he's a bright spot. Bam Adebayo. I like Bam Adebayo as a defensive player. I really do. And I've said this many times in the past. Bam Adebayo is not a true center, and I don't think that he ever will be. We have seen this experiment over and over again. He is just too small. We saw this against Jokic in the NBA Finals a few years ago. We saw this against Anthony Davis. We saw this against Dwight Howard. Bam Adebayo is a very good power forward. He can pass a basketball at a very good level for a power forward. He can move around. He can get to the rim. He can have a solid mid-range game, which is inconsistent. Bam Adebayo as a center, defensively, he takes a massive step back. He can guard positions 1 through 4. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. But if you want him to take that massive step forward and be that offensive star, it's not going to happen. We have seen this with Bam Adebayo. He's been in the NBA since 2017, 2018. The most points that he has averaged in his career was in 2022, 2023, and that was 20 points a game, and it was tough for him to average that much. I know when he goes to the Olympics, he's a very good basketball player, but Bam Adebayo will never average 25 points a game for you, and that is what you need from Bam Adebayo if you want him to be the number one option. He's just not able to do it. He'll have a couple of games that make you say, you know what, Bam's going to be a star. He had 34 points against Cleveland, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, and he's getting paid a lot of money too. And I'm not expecting for him to score over 30 points a night. Can he at least give me 25? He had 23 points against Charlotte, 22 points against Chicago, 6 points against the Clippers, 9 points against the Boston Celtics. He disappears, and he did have 12 points against the New York Knicks in 34 minutes, but Karl-Anthony Towns was giving him all the problems. Karl-Anthony Towns gave him every single problem. He went on a 15-0 run by himself because he's too big. He's too tall for Bam. Bam's getting exposed. You have Khalil Ware, very good player at the center position. I think eventually, when he matures into that role, when he gets more reps underneath this belt, you can run a position lineup such as Bam Adebayo at the 4 and Khalil Ware at the 5. But he's not ready to be a starting center just yet. I look at Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins has already missed time with the Miami Heat. I look at Andrew Wiggins. He was just a throwaway piece for the Golden State Warriors. Jaime Jaquez has not had that big year that they were hoping for. He hasn't been a massive disappointment. He's had some solid moments this year. He's only averaging 9 points a game, 5 rebounds, 2.6 assists, shooting 44% from the field, who was a very good player last year. This was a man that a lot of Miami Heat fans and a lot of people in the national media were saying that he could be 6th man of the year. Before we got to the point where they traded Jimmy Butler, something that was swept underneath the rug, he was coming off the bench. He was the 7th to the 8th man. You weren't even the 6th man in terms of going out there and giving you production. So he hasn't taken that leap. And you do have to be patient with some young players. But I'm looking at Jaime Jaquez. You need to play better. Over the last 4 games, he has played better. But I look at Jaime. This has not been a very good year for him. And you have Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson is what Duncan Robinson is. Not a good defensive player, but is still one of the best 3-point shooters in the game. Very good volume shooter. When you need 3-pointers, he's there for you. And you have Hayward Highsmith. Just the talent you have right now is not good enough. I don't place it on Eric Spoelstra. I place it on Pat Riley. I want to see the Miami Heat be so good. And yes, I know they went to the NBA Finals 2 times in the last 5 years. They were not supposed to be in that spot. That's just how great Eric Spoelstra was as a head coach, how he outcoached Coach Udoka when he was a head coach with the Boston Celtics, and how he came back and basically killed the Boston Celtics just a couple of years ago when they went to the finals against the Denver Nuggets. That is just how great Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra was at that time. And players did step up. You have Gabe Vincent, who will go off for 30 points. You'll have Duncan Robinson, who will go off and give you problems. But it all started with Jimmy Butler because he elevated the pieces around him. You don't have an elevator on this team. And something else that is so crazy to me, you blew a 17-point lead against the Charlotte Hornets in the fourth quarter. The Charlotte Hornets are one of the worst teams in the NBA. A team that I was just dogging on a couple minutes ago. They came out and they beat you, and you were up by 14 points. The Miami Heat are the 10th seed. They're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference with the Raptors, the Brooklyn Nets, and the 76ers. That is how bad this season has been. You've been outscored by 90 points since you traded Jimmy Butler. You're 4-12 since you traded him. Now you could say this, let's go out there, let's rebuild this thing, let's tank out for the rest of the season. But that is something the Heat don't do because they get up these big leads in the fourth quarter and they just disappear. Or going into halftime, it's a close game. They may be up by 4 or 5 points, and then the other team makes adjustments and they just run away with it. I look at the Heat right now. You're not better than the Bulls. You're not better than the Magic, the Atlanta Hawks, the Pistons, or the Pacers. And the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, Boston Celtics, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're not better than any of those teams. And this is all because of Pat Riley. They need a closer. When we look at free agency, maybe they can bring in a top-tier free agent that could come in and be a closer. I look at Kevin Durant. He's not a free agent, but he'll be up for trade. The Phoenix Suns tried to trade him at the trade deadline. Try to bring in Kevin Durant. If that means moving off of one of those young pieces, so be it. Move a first-round pick if you have to. Try to bring in Kevin Durant. He could be a closer. He is still a very good offensive player. And you can build this team around him with his length. Because you already have Herro and Bam. Bam's a very good defender, like I mentioned before. Him and Khalil Ware with Kevin Durant at the 4 position. Maybe you move off of Andrew Wiggins. I'm all good for moving off Andrew Wiggins, by the way. I'm good with just throwing him off the team. Trade him to another team, package a first-round pick, let him go. But it's going to be tough to try to win in the Eastern Conference because of how good the other teams have gotten over the last few years. Now, look at that bully at the top of the Eastern Conference in the Boston Celtics and the same with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Miami Heat just do not mesh well against those teams right now. But with you being 25th in offensive rating and 30th in offensive rating in the fourth quarter, it's just been a tough year. That's my Miami Heat fan video vent. Basically, that was it. That was just me venting the season so far and how things have went. I doubt this team will even make the play-in. I really don't even want to see them in the play-in tournament because let's just say they do go to the NBA NBA playoffs. You may go against the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Boston Celtics. You may win a game. It may be Celtics in 4 or Celtics in 5 or Cavs in 4 or Cavs in 5. Even if you do have your first round pick this year, it's protected if it's 1 through 14. So if you lose out and you don't make the play-in tournament, you're for sure going to keep your first round pick. And this is a deep draft class in the NBA. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Miami Heat? And how do you feel about Jimmy Butler being with the Golden State Warriors? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.